listen. Okay, so this month we are talking about boundaries, and boundaries is something that all of my clients have like requested. And so it's a really important topic, and we can go super in depth. And so I'm not sure which way we're going to go with it, but I know where I want it to lead. Okay, so there's different types of boundaries. And I feel like if we start talking about these things, we can work our way into the topic of self-trust, which is a big one because it's something that I struggle with as well. But I feel like if we dive into self-trust right away, it might be too overwhelming and too big of a thing to tackle. So I'm finding that as we talk about boundaries and the different types of boundaries, what it looks like in your life, as we build those in to your life, we can start, playing with the idea of what does it look like to trust myself fully. So why don't you guys share with me what comes to mind when you think of boundaries?
Boundaries, I've done a lot of this with like just my work with being a therapist.
Mm-hmm.
When I think of boundaries, it's like setting like certain limits with yourself so that other people or other things like can't inhibit anything that like your like self, I guess.
Okay.
Like personal boundaries or financial boundaries with like different people so that they don't make you feel uncomfortable.
Okay.
For me, I mean, the first thing that comes to mind is how much I let people like cross my boundaries. Like I say yes instead of saying no, and like not putting my foot down with Remy, like because I don't want to argue, just things like that. Like I just, yeah, I don't like what, but I'm like getting better with that. But yeah. So I guess for boundaries, I just think of walls, which is negative to me. So
okay.
Because I mean, you know me, Erin, like I have this numbing thing. So if I'm like too affected or whatever, then I put my walls up, and that's like my boundaries. And
okay.
I don't know.
Okay.
I have a boundaries book I want to read. So
is it this one?
Probably, yes.
Yeah, this is a really good foundational book. There's another one that is more recent, and it takes a different angle. It's called Boundaries Boss. And she's one of those badass women that have been burned one too many times and wrote a book about it. So it has a totally different attitude. This, I feel like, is coming from more of a counselor, pastor, caring perspective, whereas Boundaries Boss is more like, okay, enough, let's reclaim what my life is. So either one I think is good, but I think starting with that one is really good. So looking up and reading a little bit about boundaries, the one thing I like to highlight is boundaries are there to protect us, not necessarily to keep others out, but to protect our emotions, to protect our time, to protect our bodies. And so if we look at, like you're saying, Sam, those walls as a negative thing, if you think of those walls as protection rather than disconnection or, a limit to keep people out, It kind of is, but if you look at it from your perspective of who you are and who you want to be, it's protecting that.
Mhm.
And you have
Mhm.
every right to do it. Right? So there was one, personal boundaries are the limits and rules we set for ourselves within relationships. A person with healthy boundaries can say no to others when they want to, but they are also comfortable opening themselves up to intimacy and close relationships. A person who always keeps others at a distance, whether emotionally, physically, or otherwise, is said to have rigid boundaries. Alternatively, someone who tends to get too involved with others has porous boundaries. So there's 3 traits or types of boundaries. There's rigid boundaries, porous boundaries, and healthy boundaries. So rigid boundaries would be someone who has walls that are impenetrable. They're there as like a fortress. They're protecting you, but you're keeping people out. No one can get in, and it's just you, right? Porous boundaries, it's boundaries that, I don't know if porous would be the word. I think mine would be more flexible, maybe, or something that, for example, I grew up with porous boundaries. I didn't know I crossed a boundary until I did, because nothing was said. It was just assumed, or my parents didn't know the boundaries, or I didn't know what their boundaries were. And so I pushed the boundaries, and I couldn't figure out what the boundaries were until I crossed them. On Friday, they were here. On Monday, they were there. They changed. And so there wasn't any definitive, this is right, this is wrong, this is good, this is bad. Sometimes that's good to have those black and white things, but sometimes you have to check them. You have to be flexible. So that would be more healthy boundaries. So healthy boundaries look like valuing your perspective, valuing other people's opinions. You share information, but you consider who you're sharing it with. You know, there's some people who just vomit everything onto whoever, and that would be a porous boundary. That's, you know, no filter. Healthy boundary would be like, okay, who am I talking to? Can I trust them with this information? When people say no to you, you accept that. You're okay with other people's boundaries as well. So those would be healthy boundaries. Does that make sense? Any questions about that? Okay. So I wanted to talk about emotional boundaries today. What type of emotional boundaries do you feel you have in place already? An emotional boundary is something that protects yourself from other people's feelings and emotions. When you don't have emotional boundaries, you might be in the middle of chaos, or like a, you know, gossip, or, you know, like drama. Can you think of some emotional boundaries you already have in place? And then think about ones that maybe you need to set.
I think my emotional boundaries are porous.
Mm. Mm-hmm.
Because I sometimes set emotional boundaries, but then sometimes I don't.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
What changes it? What do you find that changes if you are setting a boundary emotionally or not?
Depending on who the person is.
Okay. And that's okay. I think that's healthy.
Yeah.
It's when you're with a person that could be toxic or that is not healthy for you, and you find that they are controlling, manipulating you, gaslighting you, whatever, and changing your values and changing your boundaries. They have
Yeah.
that manipulation and that power over you. That's when you got to, pay attention.
Mhm.
Are they making you feel guilty for saying no? Are they really wanting you to do something that you don't want to do and you feel like you can't say no?
Right.
That kind of thing. Yep.
Because there's certain situations like with jobs where I feel like I can't say no, like authority. But then like when it comes to like coworkers that are more like on my level, I have more healthier boundaries by saying no.
Okay. So authority makes a difference. That's really
Yeah.
good. Sam, do you have anything?
I am. Well, I guess I've been thinking about like my relationships with friends and my family, and I think something I need to work on is like if somebody calls me, I'll answer and talk forever, whether or not I'm
Okay.
with Remy or not. Like if I'm with Remy, like I might talk on the phone for an hour and I'm like, I just wasted all that. It's not like a waste of time because like people need me or need to talk, but I need to shut that shit down because she's in front of me. She's the one who's with me. So, but it's like sometimes I just need to like just have some droll, boring, or just listen to conversation. But yeah.
So
But,
what boundary could you put in place there?
I mean, I have been like saying like, I only have 10 minutes,
Yep.
and then I'm like,
Right.
It's been 10 minutes, I gotta go. So, but sometimes I don't. And I just like kind of lose track of time, I guess.
Yep.
But with that said though, like, see, that's like, it's my phone is an issue.
Yeah.
Like when I'm at home, I just want to sit on my phone for a little while, then a little while turns into a long while.
Mhm.
And it's like not helping me achieve my goals and stuff and getting stuff done.
Okay.
But then at the same time, like when I'm at work, like I never respond to people when I'm at work. When I'm at home, I'm like immediate, but at work, like I don't even answer on my lunch break because I just want to have lunch and talk to coworkers, So I feel like I don't think about boundaries. Like I think about other things, like about myself, and boundaries are about me, but it's also like, to protect my time with Remy and, get like do stuff here. So
yeah.
So that's why I'm thinking because I'm like, what boundaries do I actually have up? I have them at work. If the students start talking crap about another teacher, whether or not I like that person, I'm like, we're not talking about that there, or we're not talking about that here. We're not talking about people who are not here.
Right.
And it's like part of the habits of highly successful people, like, right? Isn't it like to, what's it called? To protect, I can't remember what it's called.
I know what you're talking. I'm like looking to see if I can grab my book real quick.
I know. It's like, I don't know, but it's like, we don't talk to people who are not here.
Right.
So.
Because there's a right and wrong. There's a time to be on your phone. There's a time not to be on your phone. Good.
Yeah.
What about emotional boundaries, Sam? Do you ever find yourself saying no when you really wanted to say yes, or saying yes when you really needed to say no?
We literally just talked about this. Yeah.
We all find ourselves in that. And so we have to figure out, okay, ahead of time, going into any situation, whether it be work, social situation, parenting, marriage, whatever, what's going to be okay for me and what's not. And I swear I always fall back on the hell yes, hell no thing. If it's a hell yes, go for it. If it's a hell no, it needs to stay that way. You got to check with your gut. You got to be like, all right, there's some hesitancy here. Why is there hesitant? Why am I really don't want to do it, but I'm afraid I'm going to hurt them if I say no. That's a hell no. And the other person is going to appreciate your no, your kind, no thank you, rather than you doing it out of obligation or for the wrong reasons. They're going to feel that, or you're going to cancel at the last minute, and then they're really disappointed. So you think that you're not going to hurt them, but you end up hurting them with our wrong answer.
But why did, like, I always feel like I have to give an explanation. Do I have to?
No.
I never expect one. That's the thing. Like,
no, period.
That's something I'm trying to like work on with my aunt. My aunt is always like wants to give explanations to everything on why she can't do something.
my mom is
And
like that.
I always tell her, all you have to say is no, and that's it. You don't even have to say like, no,
Right.
I have another appointment. You can just say like,
Yeah.
no,
A
I'm
lot
sorry.
of that, a lot of our wanting to explain our no is because of past experiences of people pleasing.
And we don't think that our no is good enough. Like,
Right.
you know, for me, it's like, well, I should go, you know, like, I know I'll have fun, blah, 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 but just, I don't fucking feel like it, you know, like, and I feel
Right.
like that's not an acceptable response because.
But somewhere back then, who knows when, someone told you that wasn't acceptable. You learned that because I don't feel like it wasn't an okay reason.
Right. Well, I mean, this, like, making excuses, like, because that's just what my mom does. And I think I just learned to do that.
We do, right.
Yeah.
You know,
And
it's from
that's like, Grace, that's funny though, because like, that's literally what I tell my mom. My mom will start going into some bullshit, like, excuse. And I'm like, Mom, like, you don't have to say this. You don't have to make something up. Like, you don't want to, it's fine. She's like, oh, and like, literally one time she's like, oh, I think Erin, you told me to do that. Like, just, you know.
So let's flip it. How do you feel when people tell you no, when you've asked them to go hang out or to do a fundraiser or whatever it is?
See, I'm like, fine.
Yeah.
I'm not disappointed.
You're not. Okay,
I mean,
Grace, tell
I
us
don't
more
like to
about
be told
that.
no. I don't like to be told no ever, but I'm usually like fine with that, I think.
For me, it's more of like, well, I don't know, Sam, you probably don't know this, but I'm a type 2. So I always want to feel like people, I don't want to say like me, but I always want to feel like wanted. So like if it's like Tom or it's my aunt or if it's somebody and they say no to me, I'm like, well, why not? Like, why don't you want to do this with me? Or like, why don't you want to help me? You know, different stuff like that. But it's just, that's just who I am. And it like hurts my feelings almost to the point where I just get like mad. And I'm like, okay, fine, I'll just do it myself, or I'll just go alone, or, you know, and it takes me time to like cool off.
Yeah. And I'm just, for me, like, I don't, if someone tells me no, I don't go into that because, I mean, you know, I don't have a husband, so that's like a different story. But, you know, if someone were to tell me no to go do something or whatever, like, I don't think about, well, what are they going to do instead? Or like, well, why don't they want to go with me? Because, I mean, for me, you know, it's, I don't give a shit. Like, I'll find somebody else or I just won't go. But that's because like, it's, I try to tell myself it's not about me. Because if I do, it would drive me nuts.
Yeah.
So it's hard. Go ahead.
Yeah. No, that's it.
I was gonna say it's hard, especially if there's some abandonment issues and you feel like a no feels like they're rejecting you and it is about you. And 99.9% of the time, it's not you, it's whatever their thing is that they have to say no. And so respecting other people's no's and not taking it personally.
Right. I know I get like, well, why not? Is there something that I did to make them not want to hang out with me?
Mhm.
And then it will like carry on. And then I feel like, you know, maybe texts are coming off different, or, you know, and if that can happen with like friends, I feel that way. But then I know that there's nothing wrong, but at the same time, I'm like, well, why not? Why you? Are
Yeah.
you mad at me?
Right.
Yeah.
And of course there's a healthy part of that too. It's like, did I do something? Because
Yeah.
if I did, I want to be able to make it right and apologize and do better and learn from it. But if that's a pattern, if you're always like it, when every time someone tells me no, I'm playing that same story in my head of what did I do? What did I do wrong?
Mhm.
I wasn't a good enough friend. I wasn't a good enough whatever. I spoke the wrong way, or I said something and didn't mean it. They don't have to explain myself. And yeah, that's a trap we can get into. But what if the next time someone told you no, you said, okay, great. And we think of it, and you guys have heard this before too, you know, just because one door closes doesn't mean there aren't any other doors or windows that'll open, right?
Mhm.
One door closes, another one's going to open. And it might be
Yeah.
better than what you had originally thought. And it may have protected you. What are you laughing, Sam?
I just got an email like from my boss right before I joined this about my job. And I'm like,
Ah,
it's like with the doors opening and closing and like,
yeah. Did you get a
yeah,
closed door?
not yet,
Oh,
but
okay. Okay.
it's, he said literally everything I knew that,
Okay.
and so I wasn't wrong that
Mhm.
I could lose my job, you know,
Right.
like, so,
But
but it was
you know, you
nice.
could lose your job, not because of anything you did.
And he never
It's
said that,
just,
like,
right. It's just
yeah,
because of the way things are working out in the school system.
yeah. So
Yeah.
it was nice. His email also like complimented me, which
Mm,
my other boss did that. So I was like, that's what I
yeah.
needed to hear that so I
Yeah.
could feel better. But he did
Yeah.
too, finally. So that was nice. But
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah.
Anyways.
So sometimes those no's need to happen so more opportunities, better opportunities can come, whether it be with a job, with a relationship, whatever. At the moment, we don't understand. We're trying to make sense of it and create the story. But how many times can you look back and you got to know and you were crushed, but it ended up being better than the situation you were in before? I remember vividly a no. I mean, I felt like I heard the voice of God tell me no about something, and I was crushed. And I look back at that no, I still remember it. This is probably 10 years ago. And I'm so thankful because I would be in a totally different place. So it saved me. You know what I mean? It protected me. And so when we are talking about boundaries, no is not always bad. No could be the best yes you ever get. And so not being afraid to say no and not being afraid to receive no is a great boundary habit.
You know, I've been thinking about what the word no means to me.
Mm,
I mean, I realize that like, I don't like
mm,
to be told no.
yeah.
If it's like going out like to a restaurant or going to do something, yes. But like for example, past relationships, if I was ever told no in any situation, it would be devastating and I would wonder what was wrong. So that's
Mhm.
like, yeah.
But imagine if those were yeses, where would you be now?
I mean, some of the primary things I think of are like intimacy building things, like going on a date instead of staying at home, like things like that.
Yeah.
If like friends or relationships, like dating, would have said yes, I'd be closer to different people, but they're not. Now I'm looking, I'm like, they're not good. They don't,
Right.
you don't align.
Right.
And I
Love
think,
that.
yeah, I think like the people who are going to say yes or no at the right time, they align and your
I love
goals
that.
align. Yeah.
Yep. I love that. Not just your goals, but your values.
Yes.
You know, let's just say, okay, you've got a friend that you really have fun hanging out with, but every time you do, you drink too much and the next morning is not fun, right?
Mhm.
All right. Is that something I want to continue? Is this something I want to make a habit? Where is this leading me? Because that's all this friend is good for,
Mhm.
right? I'm focusing on being better, a better me, and my values are changing.
Mhm.
And one of my values now is to be authentic and to, be healthy and be, present. Is going out with this friend every weekend or whatever healthy
Mhm.
for me? Does it align with my values?
I have my friend, like
It's
a
funny.
newer, oh, go ahead, Grace.
I was gonna say it's funny you mentioned that because I do have a friend like that where every time, can you hear me okay?
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay. Every time we get together, we drink way too much. Like, and we both feel like crap the next day, and like both had to set that boundary with each other and just say like, let's only do this together, or I'll only come down for a little bit because I don't want it. So like we set those boundaries with each other
Yeah.
so that we're not getting to that point of, feeling that way the next day.
I know, that's perfect. I have a friend too who I will only meet for breakfast now. Now, she might have a mimosa that would put me to sleep. And if I have something to drink in the morning, it's like, no, I need to be awake for the day. But putting those boundaries of what time am I going out with this person? What are we doing together? I love that. Cool. Are you on your way to work, Grace? Okay.
Yeah, unfortunately.
Okay.
Uh-huh.
Sam, what were you going to say?
I have my friend who I've been hanging out with, and like we have so many, like we're good friends for each other. We just build each other up. But it's hard for me because she's getting divorced, and it's hard like when she starts going into her relationship stuff, because then it's like it is super all about her. I just listen and she just blah 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 blah, and I was thinking like usually like when you're talking about that kind of stuff, like you both talk, pull from past experiences and stuff, but it's not that, and it's fine because she needs that, but
Yeah, but there's a boundary that sounds like needs to be in place because you want to be
Yeah.
there for your friends, especially if it's, someone going through a divorce or a really, really hard time. But at what point do you say, okay,
well, there was one time she was saying something and I'm like, you know what? I'm sorry, but you're wrong. Like
Ooh.
and this was the second time that she was making this mistake. The first time I just listened, I didn't say anything, but it happened again. And it blew up in her face. And I told her, I'm like, this is what happens when she was telling her teenage son not to talk to her almost ex-husband, like just to period, not talk to him. So he went and hung out with him. They didn't tell her. She saw through the Ring camera that they went. And I'm like, you got to stop telling your 17-year-old no.
Right.
He's ready to lead his own life. And it's really toxic for you to tell him that your ex-husband didn't choose you and him.
Right. So you put up a boundary by confronting her and
Yeah.
calling her out on something. And I
was
see that
ready.
as a boundary.
And I was
For
ready
sure.
for the consequences. Like, you know, no matter how she
Yeah.
responded, I was ready because
Yeah. Right.
I don't want to be friends with somebody who tries to control every piece of their kid's life. And
Because you value that. You value raising children in a way that enables them to make their own choices.
yes, and I just couldn't sit
Yep.
there and not say anything because for a
And so are you
second
still
time-
friends?
Yeah. Come here.
Wow, isn't that amazing? I think sometimes we need to hear that from the people closest to us. We will know who really love us when they do confront us, when they do tell us hard things, you know? And so don't you want to be that kind of friend and have that kind of friend?
And she had said something about friends. Remy's dad is here.
Oh, you're on mute.
I'll be right back. Remy's dad is here real quick.
Okay. Okay.
I tried to get her to say hi, but she didn't want to. So sorry,
Hi,
guys.
Remy. Grace, did you have anything to add?
I like what she said about like confronting. I like when people confront me with something that I've done wrong or like a way that I've
Mhm.
made them feel
Yeah.
so that I can fix it like for the future so I don't make the same mistakes again. And
Yep.
I like when people are real.
Yep, for sure. And so when we like that, because we know that they truly care about us, we need to remember that we can be like that for other people. We can tell people no.
Yeah.
We can confront them lovingly because we care about them. It's that, I guess people will call it, you know, tough love. I don't necessarily want to call it that, but it's hard. Love is hard. Whether it
Yeah.
be friendships, you know, partnerships, whatever, work relationships, we need to hold true to our values that being honest in a loving way is the right thing. And sometimes it's hard. I'm going to mute her. Okay. Yeah. So I know we started talking about emotional boundaries and then we started talking about saying no or hearing no. And I think that is probably the number one. I muted you, sorry. Okay.
Sorry.
I just wanted to review a little bit. We were talking about emotional boundaries, which led us into the word no, the sentence no, period, right? Full stop. And how hard it is, but it's good. Sometimes really good things are hard. Yeah. So what do you guys need to help you say no or receive no better?
I need to trust my no's.
Ah, love it.
And I need to not trust my yeses, I guess. Because my yeses are always like,
do you find you
I'm
say
quick to
yes
say
right
yes.
away? Okay.
Yes.
Yeah, quick. So what can you put in place to slow down that yes?
I'll let you know later or something like that,
Okay.
you know, or like,
Let me think about it.
yeah. And
Give me
then,
a
or just
minute.
like not respond for a while or something, you know?
Right.
So
There's some
like,
things that are hell yeses though. But I
Oh,
like
yeah.
that
Oh,
you're saying I say yes too easily and then I regret it. Good.
Yeah. And then I flake out and then I feel bad.
Right. Grace, what do you need in order to say or receive no better?
I pretty much agree with Sam. Like thinking about the, I don't want to say consequences, but thinking about like, am I going to be stretching myself too thin?
Mhm.
Is this going to be like overwhelming for me? So like having thoughts put in place first for like why I shouldn't be doing something.
Okay.
I don't want to get burnt out or
Yeah. Right. Oh, we lost Grace.
Oh,
That's
no.
okay. I'm recording it. So
Oh, okay.
all I was going to say was practicing the pause. And I like to go 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, because sometimes we do need to give an answer right away.
Mm-hmm.
But if we can count backwards, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, yes, or no, or let me get back to you, I need more time.
Mm-hmm.
That 5 seconds takes the answer from here to here. That's all it takes is 5 seconds. And it puts it in a different part of your brain.
Mm-hmm.
And you're able to make better, wiser choices.
I'm gonna try.
I know it takes practice. So Grace, the only thing you missed was the 5-second rule, counting backwards, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, before you give any answer, yes, no. And that might give you enough time to go, I need time to think about this.
Mm-hmm.
But just practicing the pause, that's it.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. All right, I know we could talk for a ton more time, but I'm gonna let you guys go. It's Friday. And Grace is working. And what are you doing this weekend, Sam?
Saying no
Nothing
to people.
spectacular. Say no. Except when
No.
you know, have to say yes, to like cleaning your
Yes.
house and, you know.
I think, I don't know, like, I'm taking my nephew tonight. It's just gonna be me and him. I'm like, well, I gotta go do laundry because my dryer is still broke. So
Oh gosh.
I know.
All right. Fun
But
times.
just like nothing super pressing. We
Okay.
did the Bucks game last night and that was super fun. So
Yeah, that's plenty.
yeah. Yeah.
All right, ladies. Next month, I might be switching up the day and time of this meeting. I'm trying something new with some other clients. And so I'll let you guys know when the next monthly gathering will be.
I'll be in Mexico during our normal time. So
Fun.
just saying. I may or may not be looking for someone to go with me because my friend's passport is getting messed up.
Really? I have a
So-
passport.
Erin, I'm serious. I just want to lay by the beach.
All right.
Or Grace.
You just came
sent
back
my-
from vacation.
I just sent my passport in so I could get my name changed.
Oh,
So
Chicago does emergency Chicago does emergency passports.
They do.
I'm not paying for that.
I've
never
got one ready to go.
Are you changing it back?
No,
Oh.
changing it to my married name.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yay.
So- I know, finally, after 4 years.
You know, that's okay.
Okay.
I'm gonna
You
stop
got that.
sharing.
Yep.